So much clarity over the last couple of months with so many people connected with Iowa men's basketball, including some people who hadn't gotten to Iowa yet, but had been committed to Fran McCaffery's 2025 and 2026 rosters. We'll talk about the recent announcement and decision, the recent signing here in the last 12 hours announced by Kent State of former Iowa commit Dezmon Briscoe. We'll talk about that and what does it mean? Does it mean anything? Should Iowa fans be reading into the former Hawkeye commit signing with a MAC squad? No, I'll give my thoughts. But first, I want to remind everybody, folks, I was over at the spring game, the spring practice, I should say, this past Saturday. If you've missed any of our interviews, we posted a couple of them on YouTube. Here they are. See a recent interview with Jacob Gill, Iowa receiver. Very insightful stuff from Gill, who's losing a good friend and roommate in Brendan Sullivan as Sullivan moves on to Tulane. We got a chance to chat with Gill over the weekend. Also, we've got an interview up with Iowa quarterback Hank Brown, the Auburn transfer, who is now a Hawkeye. We've talked with him, and we'll be posting more from spring availability post-practice this past Saturday. Check it out on YouTube. I'll throw it up here in the corner, but I'll also tag it on the end screen at the end of this video. You can click on one of the two tiles to check out one of those two videos if you haven't caught both of them. And again, we'll be posting at least one more here this week. Appreciate you supporting the content here at From the Hawkeye of the Storm. So the news item we wanted to address on this Tuesday, former Iowa men's basketball commit Dezmon Briscoe has signed with the Kent State Golden Flashes. Yes, an athletic big Fran McCaffery had not signed, but had gained a pledge from back in late 2024. He's part of the 2025 class. He's considered a fringe four-star recruit, 6'8", 200 pounds. He's played for Crispus Attucks High School in the Indianapolis area, and he's signing with the Kent State program that has reportedly been recruiting him over the length of his high school career. In fact, their head coach commented on the signing here earlier today, basically saying we're super excited to get such a talented forward who we know can play the game inside and out. He's a proven winner. He's actually a finalist for Indiana Mr. Basketball, and he's a high motor guy. No surprise, Fran McCaffery targeted high motor guys. Now, one thing we talked about with that 2025 class, I never actually did a breakdown of Briscoe's game because he committed during the season and we just didn't get around to it. And by the time we were going to do that, it was time for Fran McCaffery to move on. Iowa had let him go. And of course, Briscoe didn't take too long to decommit, and it wasn't a real big surprise. But the thing about that 25-26 class that Fran McCaffery had put into motion, and what some Iowa fans were excited about, is he was getting some commitments from some more athletic type of forwards, like Isaiah Johnson-Arrigu, the transfer from Miami, Florida, who came in midseason, couldn't play immediately, but was going to be available for the following season. Badara Diakite, the four-star, who, by the way, is still available, considered a top 150 kid nationally for this upcoming class, and this young man, Dezmon Briscoe, not to mention four-star Josh Lewis, who recently announced he will be joining Louisiana Lafayette. So some Iowa fans were excited because Fran seemed to be getting the more athletic type of forwards, and even you could go guard to with the Shabazz kid in 2026, who, by the way, is staying true to his commitment with Coach McCollum. But you got to wonder, I know some fans are going to jump on this news item and pair it with what we saw from Josh Lewis and the fact that Badara Diakite does not yet have a home. And they're going to say, hey, these kids weren't as good as maybe their rankings would indicate. You can be athletic, but that doesn't mean you deserve a spot on a Big Ten roster. I don't know what to believe. The proof is going to be in the pudding with these guys. I talked about Josh Lewis not that long ago when he announced that he would be joining Louisiana Lafayette. Remember, he was initially committed to South Florida, but Briscoe was wanted by a number of high major schools, had offers from Cincinnati, Butler, West Virginia, Nevada, Xavier, DePaul, Duquesne. He actually took official visits to not just Iowa, but also to DePaul, Cincinnati, and Duquesne. Those are all solid basketball programs, even Duquesne out of the A-10. Keep in mind, some of these programs that offered him, a couple off the top of my head being Xavier and West Virginia, have had some pretty big coaching changes. And so that's going to affect a program and its interest in signing a player. We've seen that with Iowa. That's why Briscoe ended up back on the market. It's unfortunate. Kind of feel bad for guys like Briscoe and Josh Lewis and Diakite. But I would think, this is just me. I've not been following recruiting this intently for very long, but I would think that if these kids are that highly regarded, even though I know the sites out there may indicate such, I would think if they're that good, other programs, high major programs, would find a way to get them on the roster. And so the fact that Josh Lewis heads to Lafayette, Briscoe heads to Kent State, obviously there are offers at some point on the table besides just Iowa, but apparently those offers no longer stand, or these guys are just choosing to go the mid-major route. And some players may feel that they have more power and maybe even some potential NIL by going the mid-major route and then putting yourself on the market via the transfer portal in a year or two. Not saying those things are predetermined by these young men, but I've talked about that on this show. I do think there's maybe some value if you have an unfortunate situation like a coaching change that affects your commitment and your decision, and you end up back in the market for a school late in the process like these guys are. Maybe you go the mid-major route and then really impress in years 1 and 2 and get back in the portal, find a major job, a major place, and make some money as well. Here's the timeline for Briscoe. He committed to Iowa back in December, back on the 20th day of December 2014. Of course, Fran was fired on the 14th, and Briscoe decommitted within, I think, 10 days. He did say in his statement on Twitter that he would be considering Iowa moving forward. I didn't hear anything substantial that gave me indicators that Ben McCollum was interested in Dezmon Briscoe. And now maybe there were conversations. I would think that if Briscoe was a top 150 kid, unless he just totally did not fit what Ben McCollum has in mind for this program, you would look at him if you're Ben McCollum and say, yeah, we can use his athleticism. I don't love his shot, by the way. Like I say, I didn't look at his tape when he initially committed. I have gone back since and looked at some Dezmon Briscoe film. He's definitely raw, definitely has athleticism and length at 6'8", 220. I think he's got a jump shot that really needs some work. His free throw stroke needs some serious work as well. And so I do think Fran deserves some kudos for going after some more athletic guys late in the process, but I don't know that it was going to work. We won't know. I mean, we just won't know. I'll be curious to see what Briscoe does at Kent State, where he'll be in 2 years. Same with Josh Lewis, same with Badara Diakite. By the way, Kent State's a decent program. I mean, they made the semifinals of the NIT this past year. The MAC is not a great mid-major conference in basketball, but they did make, Kent State made the NCAAs in 2023. By the way, Briscoe this past year averaged 16 points, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks. So, I mean, he put up some good numbers, and reportedly after he decommitted from Iowa, he took visits to Kent State and College of Charleston. So no indication that he had these other schools that were initially interested in him again. Does that mean nobody was interested, or does it mean nobody had spots available? We'll see. Like I say, it's probably not that big of a deal for a kid. If he can go impress here, he can be in the portal in a year and find a destination. And some of the money that's being thrown out there for kids who are averaging maybe 10 points a game or even less is astounding. So, hey, glass half full or half empty, Iowa not being able to see what would have happened with more athletic guys in 25-26. I tend to look at it glass half full. Yeah, it would have been interesting, but we'll still be able to see how these guys' careers pan out, and where they've ended up since is maybe indication that maybe they were not quite as highly regarded as some of the recruiting services would have you believe. That's just my 2 cents. Let me know what you think about Briscoe's decision. Like I said, I do have some empathy for him because it's just an inopportune time for the coach to get fired. But Iowa didn't dilly-dally, right? They didn't wait around to make that decision. They did. And if you fire a coach, he's going to have guys who are either signed or committed. They're going to have to reevaluate things and may not have a home. But they've got homes. They'll have an opportunity at the Division I level to impress and perhaps end up somewhere better in a year. Folks, appreciate you tuning in. Like I said, I'm going to throw those videos up here from spring ball, post-spring practice on Saturday. Take those, give those a look, give those a listen, and I'll be back with you tomorrow. Very special interview coming up right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Stay tuned.